Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dan Dietz, Superintendent of the Minneota Public School District. And this is a presentation of our PowerPoint that we've been giving at our community meetings. We wanted to get this out there digitally for you so that in case you can't come to any of those meetings. We are going to be having an election on November 2nd. There will be two questions. The first question will be for technology levy, and the second will be for a building bond. How and where do I vote? First of all, the election will be on November 2nd from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Minneota Community Office, which is connected to the city office. This will be the only place that you can vote in person. If you're wanting to submit an absentee ballot, you can do that up until November 1st. Please just call Tara at the district office, which is 872-6532, and she will help you with the process of voting absentee. Mail-in ballots that we usually see during normal elections are not available during a school district election when the school district election is the only one that's taking place. So you will need to either come in person on November 2nd or vote by absentee by contacting Tara. Let's talk about question one, which is our technology levy. Technology is a very important component to a strong 21st century education. We've been using technology a lot, especially in the last 10 years, but even in the last 5 to 7 years, it has gotten to be a very big component of our school. The Minneota District was fortunate to have a one-to-one technology initiative in place during the pandemic. Just one example of how technology has been an advantage for us. We have one-to-one technology where all the students in K through 12 have their own device. Students in basically pre-K through 4 keep the devices at the school. And then students in grades 5 through 12 are able to bring their devices home each night and use it for doing their homework or extra study skills. Because we have seen technology get so big in our schools over the last, let's say 8 to 10 years, we've seen a big increase in our technology costs. Technology costs for Minneota has tripled since 2013. Basically, it was $150,000 back in 2013, and now it's right around $450,000 a year. The devices that we give the students last around 3 to 4 years. After 4 years, it's really tough to make them work anymore. They're getting older. They may have been dropped a few times. Just things are starting to degrade on them. So we really have to make sure that we're getting new devices every 3 to 4 years to keep them current. Also, we don't just spend money on the laptops, the one-to-one devices that we're talking about with kids. We have other things that we're spending money on for technology. That includes our career in tech, shop, fax, home economic classes, business classes are all part of career in tech. We spend money on our servers, which help us keep all our information housed in the school district, and it keeps our information safe. We have staff that help us with our technology. Devin and Lois are in-house staff. And then we also do, we also use the service co-op to help us with the harder parts of technology, such as keeping all our information safe from people that might try to hack in. We spend money on curriculum and other infrastructure to support the building. Online curriculum has been a big piece that we have seen, along with a lot of apps, online apps that teachers and students have used. And we think it's made a big difference in our learning and teaching. The costs keep rising. Right now, we are seeing around a 5% inflation factor hitting our schools. And some of that is due to the pandemic, rising costs. Our devices, no longer can we buy them for the same prices we used to be able to. They're going up in price, just like everything else seems to be going up in price in our country at this time. The pandemic really affected that. But we see about a 5% inflation factor, and we're getting about 2% from the state each year. So you can see we're quickly going backwards when it comes to our operating budget and our technology purchases. We've also seen a big increase in paraprofessionals. In 2008, when I got here, we probably had around 12 paraprofessionals, teachers' aides. And now, due to a lot of other factors, including special education, the biggest one, is we've gone from 12 to 24 paraprofessionals. That all comes at a cost as well that needs to be covered by our operating budget. Another area with a large increase since I've been here is PSEO. PSEO is a program for our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders where they can take college classes for credit while they're in high school. And then when they go to a post-secondary institution, those credits can transfer so they don't have to stay at a college as long. All the credits are free to our students and families, which is great, but they aren't free to the school district. We do not get extra money for PSEO. It just comes straight out of our operating budget. When I got here in 2008, our costs for PSEO were around $7,500, and now they've jumped up to $165,000 in 2021. That's just new money that we have to pay by legislative action for families and students to take these credits at no cost to them. We also have to cover all the textbook costs with that as well. So that's another piece of our operating budget that we have seen explode in the last, let's say, 7 to 10 years. It's a great program for our families and students, but we somehow have to find the money to be able to continue to support that program on our end as a district. Another big factor that we're looking at when it comes to trying to make our operating budget go is the wages that we've been seeing increase in and around the area of Minneota. I'm sure you've been aware, the one on the right on this PowerPoint, you'll see that comes from Arby's in Marshall, and they're starting up to $15 an hour, which is a lot more than what we used to see when with people starting out at, let's say, fast food restaurants. We also took some pictures from our local business, which is Universal Forest Products. You can see on there, 14 to 16, 15 to 16, $17 an hour for starting. And there's bonuses that some of these places are paying as well. We don't start our paraprofessionals, our cooks, and other staff necessarily at those wages yet. And so we're working hard to try to get wages that are competitive to be able to attract our non-certified teachers that come in. We also need to continue to be competitive with our teachers. We have a big teacher shortage right now going on in this country. And it's common to see only maybe one applicant for an English position, and that same applicant might be looking at 5 or 7 different school districts. So we have to continue to make sure that our wages reflect, stay competitive and reflect what's happening around in the area. And that's just another piece of our operating budget that we have to continue to manage. If we talk about career and technology for question 1, we're looking at different things that we'd like to be able to upgrade. Right now, our welding stations are very old. They probably were around if you went to school here yourself, they're probably around then. They're starting to not work as well as we'd like them. And that would be an area we are interested in upgrading. We also have some very old shop equipment still that we're using. And it's kind of time to start looking at upgrading some of those. It's just that as they get older, they start to break down more like anything else. And then we start putting extra money into them and it's not really worth it anymore. It's time to look at getting some newer equipment in there. And the passage of this levy will allow us to look at doing some of those items along with managing all the other pieces that I said before this. So if we're looking at the technology levy, question 1, costs have increased faster than revenue. With the technology, staffing, PSEO, and all the other areas, we are seeing our costs jump a lot faster than it used to, and we're just not getting the revenue in from the state to be able to cover that. And we're hoping that this technology levy can cover that so that we don't have to see any of our programs go away. And then when coupled with some declining enrollment, and we have had some declining enrollment in our school district, we still have a good number of students that go to our district, but it's not like it used to be 5 years ago. And every time we lose a student in our school district, it's about $11,000. So you can see if you just lose 3 or 4 students, you could easily be between $30,000 to $40,000 out of your operating budget gone. And sometimes it's not that easy just to make those cuts. So that's another area that we're monitoring and trying to manage. We did get some federal COVID dollars over the last couple of years that have helped us try not to go backwards too badly on our budget. But those dollars really are only going to be good until maybe the 22-23 school year, which is next year, maybe enough to get us through some of next year. But then those dollars go away and we won't have them anymore. So really, they're more of a Band-Aid than anything else. But we are very fortunate that we've had some of those COVID dollars. They're just not a long-term solution. And so we need this technology levy question one to help stabilize our budget into the future. Now we're going to look at how Minnesota compares to other school districts when it comes to revenue, expenditures, test scores, those types of things. First of all, the slide that you're seeing right now is the 2020 average revenue per student. So what we can do is go into the Department of Education and we can see how much money each school district gets for revenue per student. What I did is I took a whole lot of school districts that are right around our area here, and I did a comparison. For example, you'll see Hendricks is on the top of the list. They get $18,315 per student to operate on. If you look at some of the other school districts, you'll see them. The state average is around $13,696. And now if you take a look at Minnesota, you'll see that we're at $11,492, the bottom of the list. One of the reasons for that is because we do not have any voted in operating referendum or levies. We are at zero for that. And so all that extra money that other school districts are getting to operate, we are not getting at this time. And so that's another reason why we're asking for a tech levy, is because we need it in order to try to keep up with the expenditures that you're going to see coming up. We are last on the list for revenues, and I just wanted people to be able to see that, you know, we aren't sitting up there in a high amount of spot here where we already have a whole lot coming in, and now we want more. We actually have some of the least amount coming in, and we're asking for some to be able to stay competitive with the other districts. The next slide you're looking at is the average expenditures per student, and it's the same concept as the first one, except now we're looking at expenditures. If you look there again, you'll see Hendricks is at the top of that list at $17,461. So if I go back a slide, you'll see $18,315 and then $17,461. So they're able to spend a lot more per student than we are. Once again, if you look at where we're sitting on this list, we're last on the list at the amount of expenditures that we spend per student. We spend $10,875. And what's happening here is those expenditures, because they're from 2020, are starting to get to be a lot more than $10,875, but we're not really having a lot more revenue come in. So as we start to go back to this one where we have $11,492 in revenue coming in, as that $10,875 is going over the amount of revenue we have coming in, we're going backwards. And as we go backwards, we will have no choice but to either get, hopefully, this levy to go through, or we'll have to make a lot of reductions in order to balance our budget. And we're hoping that we don't have to do that to our programming and our staffing. Now, if we look at what kind of operating referendums or levies other school districts have near us, you'll see that most every other school district near us has something passed. There's only 4 of us that don't. Marshall, Lakeview, RTR, and Minnesota have nothing beyond the normal state aid that comes in. For anything extra is not there. Now, you'll notice something with Marshall, Lakeview, and RTR. They put a lot of money into their new buildings that they have. Marshall has a brand new $60 million building. I think it's around $60 million that just went up for an elementary school. Lakeview has been adding on to their elementary. They put a whole new section of elementary on a couple of years ago, and now they just passed a big building referendum as well, or construction. And RTR has a brand new school now in Tyler that they put their money into. And we have put money into our building for sure, but we haven't put that kind of money into a brand new building like they have. So we are asking for question 1 to go through so that we can try to get some extra revenue in to meet the expenses that we've been seeing that have been happening over the last, especially over the last 2 years, but over the last 5 years. What happens if we don't get the question 1 to go through on November 2nd? Well, we don't expect any big increases from the state to happen. We've been getting around 2% from the state. And so we expect that's probably about what they'll keep doing each year. Remember, our inflation is right around 5%. So that 2% really doesn't cut it for us. And without any significant funding increases or the passing of the technology levy, we will be forced to make some drastic cuts over the next few years. We cannot allow our budget just to go backwards and continue to go backwards till we have, that's not going to be a good situation for the school. We have to keep a healthy fund balance so that we can make our bills and make our payroll and have a fund there in case things don't go so well in the state. So in order to do that, really there's only a few ways that you can manage a budget if you don't have the extra funds coming in like we're asking. I will tell you that we did make a $50,000 cut a year ago to our budget. And this year now, 2021, 2022, we did make $100,000 worth of cuts. We've done that because we've been trying to be fiscally responsible. And one of the ways that we did it this year is we did not replace one of our elementary teachers. We have a class of 23 or 24 kids. And so we made that one section. And so we're always trying to look for for ways that we can try to reduce the budget without making a big negative impact to our students and our staff. Well, there's only a couple places that you can really make significant reductions if the levy doesn't go through on November 2nd. 72.5% of our total general fund is salary and benefits. That's very normal for a school to be at around 72%. Almost everybody's right at that number. The problem is that is the biggest number of the budget and of the general fund. And so when you go to look for significant cuts, that's pretty much where you have to look a lot of times. It's hard. Some people will say, well, if you lost 5 kids, why don't you go make, $55,000 worth of cuts? Well, it's not that easy because let's say you lose a student in kindergarten, one in 4th grade, one in 10th grade, one in 9th and 11th grade. That's just one student out of each of those grade levels. You really can't cut a teacher because you lost one student. So you have to go find it somewhere else, try to do something else to make up that difference. We're hoping that question 1 goes through so that that'll provide us the extra income that we won't have to make any kind of significant reductions. We've been very successful, even though we're the last on the list for the amount of revenue we're getting, and we're the last on the list of those charts that I showed you for the amount of expenditures. We believe that we've been doing an excellent job with our student achievement and growth. I will show you a couple slides here that shows that we're right in the top of most school districts when it comes to our student achievement. And we've worked hard at this over the last, let's say, 8 to 10 years to try to get ourselves to be strong in all areas, athletics and academics and the arts. We want to be a school district that offers everything at a high level. The first chart here that I'm showing you is our district MCA Science scores, the ones that we just took last spring. You will see that Minnesota is at the top of this list for the amount of kids that passed it, that were proficient or exceeded the mark. We are at 60.6. The next school district is Hills Beaver Creek at 55.7. So out of 27 school districts that are in our area, we were top on that for district science. And science is tested at the 5th grade level, at the 8th grade level, and the 10th grade level. The next chart shows our reading. We are 3rd on the list for our district reading at 62.1. And those grade levels are tested at 3rd through 8th grade, and then they also test 10th grade for district reading. So we're doing very well. We're 3 out of 29 for proficiency on our reading tests out of all those school districts. And then if we take a look at our district math, which is grades 3 through 8 and grade 11, we're also 3rd on the list at 62%. So 3rd out of 30 school districts. So you can see we're achieving in the top 3 out of all those districts in each of those areas. And we're doing the teachers are doing a great job, and the kids are doing wonderful, working hard and learning and taking the test seriously. Now, if we take a look at digger.com, which is a respected national ranking system that ranks school districts and how they're doing in the country, you'll see that Minneota ranked the 15th best school district out of 430. Such a great achievement for our teachers and staff and students. So we're doing very well with the resources that we have. The problem is that our expenditures are starting to far exceed our revenues, and we'd rather ask for a tech levy to help cover those costs than to start making a bunch of reductions that would hurt all the different pieces that I just showed you. Once you start losing programs and you start losing staff, it's harder to achieve the types of things that I just showed you on these 4 slides. We also need to talk about competition. I talked about a little bit earlier that there's a lot of school districts near us, of course, that are building new buildings and they're adding different things. Some are putting turf football in, some are putting auditoriums, but also some are beefing up their technology like we're trying to do and continue to provide great opportunities for our students. We actually have a large number of students that open enroll into Minneota. Open enroll means that they live in another school district, but they choose to come to Minneota, and they then put an application in to come to our school district instead of the one, let's say, is in their own district. Last year, as of May 2021, we had 110 out of 516 that came from another school district that chose our school as the place they wanted to educate their children. That's a significant number. 21% of our total population are open enrolled in. When you take that number and you add it to the Ivanhoe students in grades 7, 12, through the tuition agreement that we have, that's another 55 students. So in total, in May of 2021, we had 165 out of 516 students that were either open enrolled or tuitioned in. Basically, parents that were choosing our school district over other school districts, which makes 32% of our total school population is open enrolled or tuitioned in. I can't imagine not having those students here and what that would do. We certainly have a lot less students in our building, and our budget would be far less. But we have to continue to remember that they're choosing our school and other families are choosing other schools. We want to be that top choice for everybody so that when they're looking at area school districts, they say, I see that Minneota is doing it the best and we want our child there. In order to do that, we have to continue to provide the best possibilities for learning that we can. And that's what's part of this technology levy, is that we continue to provide what we're doing now, and we can even maybe do it a little bit better. But we do need the revenue in order to be able to do that. So in summary, for question 1, the technology levy, we have kept our operating costs low. We spend the least amount on that list that I showed you per student than anybody else. We receive the very lowest amount of revenue compared to all the other districts on that list that I showed you. We are only one of 4 districts that does not have something additional passed for operating costs. And so I talked about Marshall and Lakeview and RTR. They've put a lot of money into their new buildings. So they've kind of had a focus on that, but we would like to try to get a technology levy passed so that we can start to stabilize our budget. We would have to make deep cuts that would affect our student achievement if we can't get the technology levy through on November 2nd. So we really don't want to go there. We think we're doing what's happening here is a good thing, great thing, and we want to continue to make sure that it stays great. The Ivanhoe tuition agreement has helped us a lot over the last 8 years, and it continues to. It's just that the costs have started to rise beyond that, and there aren't quite as many kids that come from Ivanhoe as there maybe was, let's say, 8 years ago. So that's a difference there. And we are asking for a $500,000 per year technology levy to help us cover the $450,000 current costs we have now, and to provide a little bit more money so we can start to upgrade some of our equipment that we talked about. And we're asking for that to be over a 10-year period. One thing that you really need to know is that there'll be 2 questions on this ballot, question 1 and question 2. Question 1 will be the technology levy. Question 2 will be the building bond. Question 2, the building bond, cannot pass unless question 1 passes first. We do not want to get question 2 only. We need the money from question 1, the technology levy, in order to help us with our operating budget. And so question 2 is contingent upon question 1 passing. Okay, we're going to now move on to question 2. Question 2 is a building bond. We have several projects that we're presenting for taxpayers on November 2nd. The first one is going to be a cafetorium. A cafetorium is basically a combination of a cafeteria and an auditorium together in one room. It's a dual purpose idea so that we're maximizing our dollars and we're filling a bunch of needs with the same room instead of building 2 completely separate rooms. The first thing that a cafetorium will do is it will provide dedicated space for lunch. If you've been in the building, you know that lunch is on the east side of the auxiliary gym, which is the newest gym, and it's on our wood floor, and it basically, the tables are out for breakfast and lunch from 6 a.m. until 2 p.m. every day. So we're asking that we have a separate place to be able to have lunch that's not on the gym floor. And that's the first thing that a cafetorium will do for us. It also will provide a dedicated space for a stage and for our performing arts. Right now, our stage is in our main gym, the Viking gym. And it was built a long time ago, and it really doesn't serve our needs now for drama any longer like it should. And so this cafetorium would allow lunch to happen during the day and drama and choir and band events to happen at night. You could even have some concerts during the day if you needed to in there. Part of this also is that we're asking to build a wrestling room for practicing. Right now, our current wrestling room only has 1.5 mats on it. Most practice wrestling rooms have 2 mats. And by only being able to put 1.5 mats on the current wrestling room, there's too many kids in there, and there's too much chance for injury. The room's just not big enough, and by not having 2 mats, you really can't spread the kids out like you need to. And over the years, we really have had some injuries, and so just from practicing, kids rolling on each other. And we're asking to build a bigger room that can house 2 mats that will make it safer for our wrestlers to be able to have their wrestling practice. We also have an issue with our elementary students. We have no gym space for them to be able to go in if they have to stay inside for recess. If the weather's not good or something else happens where they cannot have recess outside, we have to have them stay in. And the problem with that is they have nowhere to go to run and sort of do a recess inside where you'd expect that they could let off some steam, and the reasons why we have recess. Instead, right now, what they have to do is sit in the hallways and have recess there, because half of the gym is being used for lunch, like I said. The other half is being used for physical education classes with a curtain down. And then you take the Viking gym, the main gym, and that's got physical education in it too. So there's just nowhere for these kids to be able to go and have an inside recess. So typically what's been happening is they stay in their classroom or they go out in the hallway and they sit on the floor. By moving the lunch room out of the east side of the gym to a cafetorium, that would open up a whole half a gym that those kids could go in there and they could actually have a normal inside recess. Also, our custodians have to put out the tables every morning and push the tables back in every day. And it takes around an hour a day of their time. In a cafetorium, those tables would stay out all the time. The only time they'd ever be moved is if we actually were having a concert or a drama at night. But it'd be far less times that they'd have to move the tables if we had a cafetorium than if we had what they're doing right now. And we have other places in the building that we need our custodians to continue to focus on. But unfortunately, they're putting so much time each day in just moving tables in and out of the gym where lunch and breakfast take place. The location that we are proposing for our cafeteria and our wrestling room is right next to where the fitness center and the kitchen and current wrestling room is right now on the playground. So I'm kind of showing you on this slide where that structure would be built if this goes through on November 2nd. Also, you might ask, well, where is this playground equipment going to go? Well, we have the old tennis court that's been dismantled. Everything will start to be shifted down towards that end so that we can make room for the cafeteria, and then we'll have a spot for our playground just a little bit further away. This is a good example of what we're talking about for the cafeteria. I'll just kind of go through it. Basically, kids are going to come here and they'll go down here to get their food, where I'm kind of moving my cursor, if you can see it, and over then into the cafeteria so they can eat. Right now, the auxiliary gym is here, and kids eat right in here. So we're going to restructure things so that they come in, they go down, get served down here, and go straight into the cafeteria to eat. Our current fitness center weight room will become a storage area in case the tables do need to be pushed away for a drama or a choir or a band. They have a place to put them. So the current spot that we have our fitness center now will become a storage area. If we look over to where it says weight and fitness over here, this is our current wrestling room. And we are then going to move our fitness center into this room where the current wrestling room is, because it's a bigger space and it's all contiguous. Right now, we have issues with the current space that we use for fitness center. It's not big enough. You can't spread the equipment out enough. And we're using closets to house some of the equipment where people are supposed to use it. Also, we would like to add our wrestling room that I talked about, the practice room here. And it would be big enough for 2 mats, like I said, so that kids could spread out a lot better. Inside all this, we'll make sure that we have dressing rooms so that we have that for the drama. Right now, we have no dressing rooms in our current stage. And we'll have bathrooms here, men, women's, and we'll have 2 individual bathrooms at the end for privacy, changing babies, whatever people might need a single bathroom for. And then we'll also have a space somewhere in the cafeteria where we can run our sound and our lights, so that we can. Right now, you'll see later that we really don't have a place to run our sound and our lights. They just build platforms on the gym floor, and it doesn't work real well. This will be a dedicated space so that we can actually have a spot where people can go into a room and run that from inside the room. We'll have a breakout room. This will be a place during the school day where kids and teachers or staff can go and maybe take a test or have some private area to read out loud or things like that. We don't have a lot of open spots in our school for that. So we've added a spot here for that as well. And then we'll have a door likely here where the door is to go in right now by the fitness center. We're probably going to look at putting a door to go into the cafeteria, and there will be a door over here near to the parking lot where you can get in so that you can get to the wrestling rooms and all the rest. So this is kind of this is a bubble diagram, and if this goes through on November 2nd, we'll certainly have even more specific diagrams that drawings that will be made to finalize the plans on all this. This is just an example of what a cafeteria might look like. It allows us to have lunch during the day, and allows us to have, like I said, concerts or drama or band at night. We're building this for around 280 people to be able to sit. And we're also going to make sure that we have proper seating with backs to them that'll be folded up near the wall of this, so that we can pull those out and people will have quality seating when they're sitting during a drama or a concert. During the day, we'll have lunch tables, and during the night, if there's something in there, we'll then move the lunch tables out into that storage area and pull out the seating that will be up against the wall, kind of like an accordion. They'll all be pushed up against the wall, and like bleachers, they'll come right out, and then people can sit on them and enjoy the presentation. Our cafeteria stage, sharing the stage with the Viking gym right now, which is our main gym, doesn't work real well. There's just so many events that have to take place in there after school. It's really hard to get gym time. Athletics are in there, and we have other events that we try to schedule. It's hard for them to get any kind of appropriate time to practice. If, let's say, basketball is in there until 6 o'clock, you might try to have your drama practice from 7:30. They might stay here till 9:30. It gets real late at night. It'd be a lot better to have a dedicated space in the cafeteria where it's lunch during the day and that spot is open after school, and our students could stay after school and they could do their drama practice or whatever. But they would have their own space to be able to use, just like most of our other events. The acoustics in the current gym don't exist. The Viking gym, where we do most of our competitions, it wasn't made for that, so there really aren't any acoustics. It doesn't lend well to doing drama, musicals, the plays in there, or even our band and choir. There's just not good. There's no acoustics at all, really. There's really no storage in there for us to be able to store props and other things that we want to for our drama. And so we are out of room, and we try to find other places in the school to store those things, but it's very difficult to have that way. So the new cafeteria would have plenty of storage area so that we could keep the props, keep the costumes and other things that we need to store close to where they're going to be needing them. The stage that we have currently, as you can see in this slide, is not handicap accessible. There's no way to really make it handicap accessible, and so that's a problem. And if we ever had a student in a wheelchair that wanted to be in, we just don't have a great way to be able to manage it. Now, we have managed it in the past by trying to carry them up and that type of thing, but really we should have an ADA handicap accessible stage, which the new stage in the cafeteria would be. And then the big set pieces that they need for drama and for the musicals, we have nowhere to really put them. We have kind of a lofty area above the stage that we try to put those things, but it's a little bit dangerous. You have to go up the stairs, and it's more like a ladder, and it's just not ideal at all. And we worry about something falling off of there. The new cafeteria that will have plenty of area so that people can store the set pieces, costumes, like I said, in an appropriate area where it'll be safe and you can get them out quickly and use them. There's no dressing rooms for our students to really dress in with our current stage. They try to use the choir room, but that's not really appropriate because it's just one big room. And the new cafeteria would have dressing rooms so that students could easily get in and out and be close to the stage when they need to go on for their performance. I think I discussed a little bit about the sound and light. Right now, they can't, it's on a platform and you have to put it all out there each day and take it back. It takes a long time. They really don't even work with sound and light until the last week before a performance because it's so much work to get it out and in. And there's always going to be phy ed and athletics and other events going on in the gym the next day. You can't leave it out. And so we would have a dedicated space in the cafeteria so that they could actually have sound and light, and it wouldn't have to be put up and taken down each day. There's no real wing space for props and actors to use on our current stage. This stage is very old. It was built probably in, I don't know for sure, but for sure the 70s, if not the 50s, and it just wasn't made for this. But the new stage in the cafeteria will have the wings that it needs. And then there's not any good way to be able to pass behind the stage when they're doing a show. It's very cramped back there on our current stage. This would be big enough in the cafeteria on that stage to be able to allow for people to move back and forth without the audience seeing. Speech, band, and vocal and drama really could benefit from having this cafetorium. With the proper acoustics and the proper facilities, we expect that we would have most of our performances happen in the cafetorium. And it would be, no doubt that sound would be better and the facilities would be better that way. It also eliminates scheduling conflicts. Like I said, a lot of times our students can't practice till 7:30 or 8 at night. And that's really getting late for them when they have school the next day. So this would be a dedicated space that they could practice whenever the drama director or the or the band or the choir teachers wanted to have practice, they could after school instead of having to wait. It also creates a gathering and presentation space for teachers and students. Like I said, we want to have like a lyceum in there. We could during the day, and it would be set up for that. It just gives us one more space to be able to use besides what we have now for those purposes. Our current lunchroom, you can see this is a gym floor. We're having all kinds of problems in our current lunchroom. We've used it for about 17 to 18 years. It's been scrubbed over and over because once they're done with breakfast, lunch, you got to scrub the floor to make it clean. And what's happening now is that our floor is starting to break. We had our floor refinished last summer, and actually a summer ago, so a year ago. They said that they could see that the wear and tear on the side, the east side of the gym where the lunch is taking its toll. We've lost 5 years of life on that side compared to the other, and it's only been in use for about 17 or 18. So it's going to degrade quicker, and we're going to have to replace the whole thing at some point, which is really expensive. And then also we just started to notice some real cracks happening. And so we were told we can no longer scrub this floor. We have to try to use other means to clean it, which takes more time. It's just getting to a point where we don't want to ruin the wood floor, and it is starting to be ruined by having lunch on that side. So by having a cafeteria, we really want to move it off of the gym floor, have their own dedicated space that's not a wood floor that will last forever. I think I talked about our that, you know, the tables are out from about 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. So that floor is really unusable for anything else but breakfast and lunch each day, even though we have more uses for that we could use. Our Phy Ed classes can't use that side of the gym until 2 o'clock, which is hard on the physical education classes because they really would rather have a full gym than trying to use half a gym. And so that would help that. And then we talked about the acoustics also. The acoustics, even in the 2003 gym, the auxiliary gym, it's really hard to hear during lunch when physical education is going on the other side, because, you know, lunch is lunch. Kids are supposed to be able to talk. There's a lot of noise, a lot of kids in there. And it's hard for our physical education teacher to be able to teach and talk to the kids while lunch is going in on the other side. If lunch was in the cafeteria, you wouldn't have that issue at all. And then we talked about recess having to be in the hallways and classrooms when it's inside because there's no space for them to go. In 2020-21, you might be surprised to hear about 16 consecutive days were inside because of cold weather, and 25 days total had to be inside instead of outside. So all those days, those kids were in their own classrooms or sitting on the floor in the hallways, not being able to run and do the things that kids like to do during recess. So this would really help, because then if that side of the gym was open, we could open it up for recess kids, elementary kids, to go in there and have their recess. The wrestling room, this is a picture where it's only 1.5 mats, like I talked about in the current space. There's overcrowding. There's been kids that have been hurt over the years because of being rolled upon. And it's just not quite big enough room to do what we're trying to do with it. We are suggesting that we build a wrestling room that allows for 2 full mats and should be safer because you'll be able to spread the kids out more. This is the current fitness center that we have. And like I said, it's a smaller space. We've had to go into these closets that are in that room and start putting equipment in there. And people are supposed to go in there and use those equipments in there. It's not ideal, and we would like to be able to use the current wrestling room if this vote goes through on November 2nd. We'd like to move the stuff over to the current wrestling room, much bigger. And like I said, it's all one big space, so you should be able to spread the stuff out appropriately. When we look at the former tennis courts, this is where we're looking at getting new playground equipment. Our playground equipment right now is over 30 years old and it's starting to fall apart. And so we are asking for brand new playground equipment for grades, basically kindergarten through 6th grade, and then a rubber surface. This is our current equipment that we have. It was built in 1991 or brought in 1991, and it's showing its age. We've had to weld pieces together over the years. There's not enough equipment really to serve grades K through 6. Honestly, in grades 4 through 6, they're not all that excited about this equipment anymore. It's just getting old. It doesn't really have the types of play that we would like to see it have. And the swings are starting to get old. We feel like it's time to buy some new playground equipment and get it installed for our kids. The playground, it's really kind of reaching the end of its life, and it's not handicap accessible. There's wood chips are on the ground, which are a problem. You can't really wheel a wheelchair very easily into wood chips, so that's not good. And like I said, it's not enough equipment to really serve grades K through 6. It's more suited for K3 right now, but we think the grades 4 through 6 really do want playground equipment. They're just not all that excited about this equipment. And because it's getting so old, we're worried about pieces starting to break. And then we also don't have a whole lot of playground equipment in our town here in Minneota. We think that we could be one of the places that people could come, be served as students during the day, and then also at nights. Daycares wanted to come, students wanted to come, people wanted to bring their kids here, they could. Weekends, summers, we could have a really nice playground that would serve the community beyond just the school. We do have current equipment out there for kind of our pre-K kindergarten. We bought that about 5 years ago. We are not looking at having that go away. We think that's good equipment. It serves its purpose. It's newer. So that would stay. We would just be adding the new playground equipment that I just discussed to this. One of the problems with our surface is wood chips. I didn't realize this when we did this many years ago, but it gets into kids' shoes, it gets into their clothes. Parents try to wash the clothes, it gets into their washing machines. The school has it tracked throughout the school. We would rather go to the rubberized surface that you see here, or that you can see with the pre-K equipment. This equipment is softer, it's better for falls, and it has you don't track anything anywhere. So that's one of the pieces we'd like to also change, is to have brand new playground equipment, but also have rubberized flooring throughout. Another problem that we have that we would like to fix is over by the junior high softball field next to the playground. We have this big sort of gully starting, because all the water that comes from Monroe Street, our playground, and our roofs all come down here and drains out. And it's causing these huge pieces here that you can see that's becoming a hazard for people who are trying to walk across there. My fear is that somebody's going to be running and they're not going to see it and they're going to hurt themselves. We do have orange kind of like fencing around it right now to try to tell people not to go near it. But every time we have rain, it just is causing a deeper gully in there, and it's not good. We need to get that tiled correctly so that we can actually have it drain. This was a wall that was put in a long time ago because all the water was going to the playground and washing out the wood chips. That wall was never meant to be there forever, but we've kept it there because we have no other way to really drain, because this is what's happening when you do drain. And so we are interested in tiling this correctly and having that having a drain so we don't have these big gullies hitting, like I said, and it's really becoming a safety hazard. Okay, we're going to move to bathrooms at the KP Complin Field. as you know, most of you, if you've gone there, probably for all the time that's ever existed, we've had porta potties. Porta potties really aren't serving our needs the way they should be anymore. First of all, they're not handicap accessible, which is not good. Pretty tough to get any kind of wheelchair in any of those. They're not serving our fans and players' needs. They're not heated. They don't have water. They don't have lights. When you have large crowds, you can only have one going at a time. You might have lines of 5 or 6 people standing there waiting, and the game could be going on or whatever, and they're missing it because we just don't have the facilities to be able to accommodate large crowds with these porta potties. We also have gone to the city, and we've asked the city if they would have a desire to look at providing the sewer and water part of the bathrooms, if we put permanent bathrooms down there. And they have shown interest in looking at that with us. Actually, there's water to the field already. It's just mainly sewer. And so we think that the city will partner with us and look at providing sewer as part of this as well, if we put permanent bathrooms. Now, the bathrooms that we're looking at on this diagram, you'll see an A right in here. That's next to the concession stands. That's really where we want to put the bathrooms. We would have a men's bathroom, a women's bathroom, and then we'd have an individual bathroom at the end. Some place where, let's say, somebody could go and change their baby or just have privacy. So that would be our first choice. We think that we can put the bathrooms next to the concession stand, and it'll be convenient for when people are going to get stuff at the concession stand, or just near to where everything else is kind of happening with the grilling that goes on before games and that. So what we're looking at is building permanent bathrooms that will meet our needs, and then we will no longer have to have porta potties there. We won't have to pay for those porta potties anymore. And most high school fields now have regular bathrooms. Very rarely do you ever see porta potties anymore. So we're one of the last ones that haven't been able to get bathrooms yet at the field, and we feel it's time for that. Okay, moving on to our parking lot. Our parking lot is over 40 years old, and it's degrading to a point where we cannot fix it anymore. We've tried everything that we can do over the last 10 years to limp it along. But as you can see by these pictures, it's starting to get to a point where they said, no longer can we fix any of this. It's just going to get worse each year, and it's cracking badly. There's potholes and shifting going on, and we need to have a new parking lot. The new parking lot would be a total new part. I mean, we'd keep the base of the parking lot that we have now, but then we'd put brand new cement or blacktop on, take this out and put it on top and start over. And that's really the only way that we're going to be able to save our parking lot. And we also have to remember that our parking lot isn't just used for school. It's also used for the pool during the summers. And so it's getting a lot of use of vehicles in and out. And so it's an important piece of our school. I will show you what our parking lot would look like if this vote goes through on November 2nd. We are looking at having a new parking lot surface, and we would have a sidewalk that would go in between each of the spots here, so that kids or people could park, get off, go along the sidewalk, and then get into the building. We're also looking at putting the snow to the left of the pool. The city said that would be okay, because right now the snow kind of gets pushed up nearer the fences. And we would have a flow of traffic where you'd come in and go out, kind of like it is now, so that we have a kind of a one-way traffic there. All right, another important piece that we're looking at doing is creating safety zones. Right now, our drop-off and pickup areas outside the school aren't safe. We have cars coming in, dropping kids off in the middle of the street, buses up against the curb, and kind of just, it's very chaotic. We've been extremely nervous over the years that somebody's going to get hurt because you have kids running in between buses. We would like to change that with the help of this vote. We would like to have, I think it's 6th Street and Jackson be just, the yellow part here be just for buses. They just park along here and let kids out and they could go into the building. We're gonna have a new sidewalk here so kids can get out, go on the sidewalk, go into the building and get to where they want to go. And then along 5th Street, this pinkish area, you'll see we just want that to be parent drop off. You pull up to the curb, you drop your child off, and then you drive away. So the buses and the drop off will be on different streets. The big cost here is that we want to be able to put sidewalks in from here to the building so that kids don't have to go all the way around to get to the high school, because we'll have the new cafeteria here. So it'll be easy to go along the sidewalk and to go into the cafeteria and then go to your spot that you have to go to, whether it be high school or the elementary. We also are going to encourage our staff to park in the parking lot more because this street will be used. And by parking in the parking lot, we'll have a place to easily get into the building. And so staff will have a better spot that they can be instead of just on the street. This is a picture of 5th Street where the parent drop off and pickup would be. That's all it would be for us. We wouldn't have buses along here anymore. And then this is 6th Street and Jackson where the buses would line up and curve around here, and it would just be bus pickup and drop off separate from where the parents would be. So it should make it a lot safer for us to be able to have our kids get in and out of the vehicles and get to where they're going. All right, those are the different projects that we're talking about for question 2. Now we can talk a little bit about the tax impact that would take place if these go through. First of all, they're 2 completely separate questions. The first question 1 is tech levy. That one will have its own vote. And then on the same ballot, you'll have question 2, which would be for our construction bond of all those projects that I just showed you. As I mentioned earlier, question 2 cannot pass unless question 1 passes first. So question 2 is contingent upon question 1. Here are the different tax impacts that you would see based upon the value of your land or your house. Taking a look at the first tax impact, I'll just use as an example a $100,000 home. If I have a $100,000 home, question 2 would cost me $62 extra a year. Question 1 for a $100,000 home would cost $62 a year. Question 2 would cost an additional $30 a year. So if I have a $100,000 home, my tax impact would be an extra $92 a year for both questions. Okay, if we move down to commercial, you can see the same values there. On a $100,000 commercial, it'd be $130 for question 1, $83 for question 2, so $193 total if I have a $100,000 building. That it's not what the business costs, it's what the building is valued at. Okay, moving on to apartments, we have seasonal, recreational, and then we get down to agricultural homestead, agricultural non-homestead. If we look at agricultural homestead, $5,000 value would be 87 cents more per acre for question 1, 42 cents for question 2, so a total of $1.29 if you had a $5,000 value. If you move down to non-homestead, you can see the same thing for 5,000. It's more though because it's non-homestead. And one thing that I will say about this agriculture, and that's the next slide, is that we have something in Minnesota very unique called Ag to School. This actually came out right before we did our vote in 2017. What this does is this covers a large portion of the costs for agricultural land. 60% in 2022 will be covered. And that's already factored into these numbers. So whatever's in these numbers is in addition to what this is covering. But these numbers are a lot lower here because so much of it's being covered by the egg to school. So 60% of the costs to taxpayers who own egg land will be covered in 2022. And in 2023 and beyond, it jumps up to 70%. So you're actually going to see your taxes go down a little bit if you have egg land after a year goes by, if this goes through, because it's going to jump from 60% to 70%. And 77.9% of our school district is made up of egg land. So a large portion of our school is egg land. That's why I say this legislation, I think, is one of the most impactful legislations we've seen for rural Minnesota, because so much of our rural Minnesota is egg land. So that's good news. 60% starting in 22 will be covered, 70% from 23 and on. Okay, I would like to thank you for tuning in today. And I just want to remind everybody to get out and vote. It's important on November 2nd that you go to the community center and you cast your vote. And if you can't do it in person, again, you would go, you could call Tara in the district office and you could vote by absentee. But our goal is to get as many people to vote as we can because it's important. And I would encourage you to come to the October 25th final community meeting. It will be this presentation, but you will have a chance to ask questions, get answers, and just have a chance to be able to speak out loud at that time, if you have an opportunity to get out on October 25th. As always, please let me know if you have any questions about any of this. I do want you to know on our website, if you go to minneotaschools.org and you look in the kind of the top middle, you'll see where it says the election. You can click on that and you can get all the information that we've put out there for this election since we started. So that's a kind of a one-stop shop for you. Remember, at our website, and you look for the icon that says election, you can find this PowerPoint, you can find the tax impacts, any of the articles that have been written, all the videos that we put out about each of the projects that we're doing. It's all right there for you. All right, well, thank you for tuning in again and have a great day.